We're inside of the Africa Forum. This is Running African. And I think we have my next very special guest, and he's going to help me in this segment to pay tribute to one of our colleagues who has passed. A very good friend, my dearest friend and colleague. We've worked together for so many years. Also a very good friend of the brother who's coming on now. He's coming on to talk about the MAGA moment in Black America and the MAGA moment. But we're going to take some time and take this time with Ras Jomo to talk about Joy Morgan. Joy Morgan, you know her very well. She has been a broadcast assistant and a producer on this program for many years. She came to IRIEFM in the early 1990s, I think around 96, possibly 95. She came from JBC, and I think at the minute that JBC was absorbed by the RJR group, that she came to, I think first to ZIP, and then to IRIEFM. She worked in IRIEFM in the traffic department, that is the traffic accounting department. A lot of people don't understand when we say traffic department because you think it has to do with motor vehicles, but it has to do with commercials, with radio ads, with everything that goes on the programming log. And she was one of those persons who helped to define and redefine over time what IRIEFM's programming log looked like in terms of setting IRIEFM as a young station. So she came in pretty early when all of this was being computerized as opposed to digitized, right? Computerized. She came in pretty early and worked 24/7 with skeletal team. She used to sleep here in the traffic department on the floor. They have beds, they have sheets, they have covers. Just a skeletal group, and she, in terms of what the log became, what the programming log became, because when we started, we were literally doing things analog, literally by hand. And then when Joy Morgan came, with the knowledge she came with from JBC, she was able to kind of guide the process, and then later on further guided the process when we were now internationalizing the traffic department, that is to say, tapping into the best practices from Europe and the United States and North America and so on. She was also the one who guided that process. And so she was in the traffic department for many moons, just guiding that process and bringing the programming log to what we have now. A lot of people who even work here now probably don't even know the extent to which what we have now was set by Joy Morgan in the early days. Later on, and I'm not quite sure if Ras Jomo is in the room with me yet, but later on, when I think it was 96, late 96, she came to the programming department, might have been 96, 97, and that was my department. I was heading up that department. And so she became a senior producer in the department. She started out as a broadcast, just learning the programming because she already knew the traffic. And so as she was coming from traffic, as a matter of fact, as a manager of the traffic department. Understand this. So when she came to the programming department, it wasn't a demotion, but she had to learn programming. And she is the kind of person who is really very humble. And so she was willing to learn and to be guided. So she started as a broadcast assistant, and then later on as a producer, and then as a senior producer. We worked on so much. We worked on almost everything. So the In Search of series that we talk about, she was head cook and bottle washer in that. We went into every parish in Jamaica, along with Professor Vereen Shepherd, because we partnered with Professor Shepherd, and we also partnered with the University of the West Indies through Professor Shepherd, the Jamaica National Heritage Trust through Professor Shepherd. And we went across the nation. We also did a lot of overseas travel together, Howard University, Washington, D.C., New York, Florida, and I'm talking about on the job, doing our programs live. One of the first programs that I did, driving, we were broadcasting from the Smithsonian, and we're going to leave the Smithsonian. This is this program from the Smithsonian to the 12 Tribes of Israel headquarters in D.C. in D.C. And Nicholas Evans was there, Joy, myself, and the conversation we had was, could we? Because we don't want to break the program, and that was before anti-intelligence and before we were digitized. But the question we raised to ourselves and answered is, could we broadcast an hour and a half from the Smithsonian and then drive from the Smithsonian, kept the broadcast going, and to 12 Tribes of Israel, and continue the broadcast as if nothing happened? And it happened. It happened because of the hard work of a team. And Joy was adamant that could happen. Nicholas will remember that we did that. And that's just one. I remember we were broadcasting from Howard University. We had gone there. It was Howard University homecoming, and we were going to do that broadcast. But, we're T4. And we went to a club in D.C. where the Howard University students were having like a jam under some building, like a really dark club. And Beanie Man was there, so we had to go see Beanie Man. And I remember interviewing, we wanted to interview Beanie Man. It was so loud. And Joy said to me, now, we can't do it. We can't interview Beanie Man. And Beanie Man said he wanted to be interviewed too. And we're live inside of GT Taylor's show. It was that time of night when GT was on. And Joy arranged it somehow that after we'd go shop the day before to find out what we were going to wear to this party. And so it was spiffy, I'm telling you, literally. And so I remember being and grabbed my hand, and he said, yes, we can do this. And Joy said, yeah, man, we could find a quiet place. And between Joy and Beanie Man, we found a bathroom. And I remember saying to GT, he said, GT, the place is so noisy. We are now broadcasting live from the bathroom of this nightclub. I remember it's a bathroom. It wasn't a bathroom, it was a toilet. And Beanie Man was really great. But this was facilitated by Joy. This is the kind of producer that Joy was, is that the show must go on. There was nowhere in the world that the program went, and it was more than one program, because she was also the senior producer on the Tuesday night program that I did, Sex-Wise. As a result of this, we had the best psychiatrists, the best doctors, the best gynecologists, anybody we wanted, Joy was able to find. I remember in the early days when we were doing our training with her, I said to her, Joy, I know people talk about 3 degrees of separation, but for me as a journalist, I think there's only one. And I talked her through it to say, all right, let us say you want to find, and I'd give her the name of a president of a country that is nowhere near us. I won't give, not an American president, but say Putin. Who is between you and getting a Vladimir Putin onto my program or onto our program? And she was saying, no, that's not possible. But that's in the early days. And I talked her through that to say, who do we know who would have Putin's number? That one call that we can make. It always works, believe me. 1 degree of separation is what I believe in. And then Joy came to believe that, and Kishima. So it was a team. It was a really, really, really tight team in the programming department. Joy Morgan, Kishima Francis, Samantha. I'm talking about the early days in the Who Am I Leaving Out, from the very early days of the programming department. The programming department grew over time, and all of the junior staff that came in, they literally learned from. I oversaw it, but the majority of them learned immediate learning from Joy and Kishima. This is basically what it was. And that's a work. But Joy, we became friends over time. We knew each other's mother, and we traveled together. We've been traveling together forever. And so as the children came, they became Auntie Joy or Auntie Cabo. And the family became one family. The anniversaries were celebrated together. The birthdays were celebrated together. The church services, the funerals, you name it. We became family. And for me, this is a time of disbelief. I am totally shocked. And yeah, I'm shocked and broken, if you will. Joy was so full of life. I still find that I want to take up the phone to call Joy, to tell her or to say to her, did you hear what happened? And what I'm about to tell her happened was an interesting thing because it is her own passing. And so when that hit me last week, I wrote a poem, and kind of looking for the poem, but I wrote a poem that just came to me in the moment, in the time, about how we never practiced goodbye. We talk a lot over the years as we face death in the family, death of friends, and so on. And so I wrote this poem for Joy that I'm going to read now. It's called We Never Practiced Goodbye. Let me get that together. To Joy,
I am here with you. Yep.
To Paula, to Marva, and to the entire family. My deepest condolences. So this poem I wrote for Joy. We never practice goodbye, not once, not in the hours when the world was silenced and conversation turned from laughter to memory. We never asked what the other should do if one of us simply stopped being here. We never spoke about who to call first, whose voice should carry the news, how the words should be arranged so that they would not break in the mouth. We never planned how to survive the moment when a name becomes past tense. But we spoke of death many times. We stood together in small churches and crowded yards, listening to songs rise slowly, shoulder with the grieving. We sat afterward on verandas and in the kitchen, speaking softly about the one that had gone. Do you remember how we would say they looked really good, how they looked peaceful, how they looked like they were sleeping? How strange it felt to see someone so still after knowing so much about them. How the absence in the room came before anyone spoke about it. And later, we would talk about them again. How much we missed them, how their names kept appearing in our sentences as if they were simply late and not gone. We practiced mourning for so many others, but never for you. Now there are moments when I reach for the phone without thinking. A small piece of news, a passing thought, something only you would understand. And the first instinct is still to call you and say, "Did you hear the news?" Then the strange truth settles in my heart. The news is about you. You were supposed to be there after the funeral, sitting beside us with that patient understanding that always made grieving feel less hard to bear. You were supposed to say what you always said. We will miss them, yes, but we then had a good life. Now the silence has your name in it, and we're left holding a conversation that cannot be finished, and still we're speaking about you in memory, in the spaces between the days, in the quiet moments when the world slows enough for love to be heard again. We never practice goodbye, Joy, but if love has any power beyond death and bone, then know this: you are still spoken of the way we used to speak of those we lost, with tenderness, with disbelief, and with gratitude, and with that same old sentence we said so many times before: how much we miss you. And I see my brother has come into the room. He is here to talk about something completely different, but here he is. And it's turned out this way. Ras Joma, my brother.
Yes. Rastafari greetings. And I have to, I'm listening to your timeline, and I was trying to communicate with my children, when we all began to first talk, and Joy was that main connector. And as I thought about it, it's probably around 20 years. So I guess subtract 20 from wherever we are now, and that is where our relationship started. And that is actually the main link that got us as close as we are. And it also was a time when IREFM was moving to being on the internet and not just listening to cassettes a few weeks, later after the programs had aired.
Yes.
We have a long history of paying attention to IREFM. So that evolution of communication with Joy also turned into us working on international things. Do you remember the independence of South Sudan and talking with generals and things of that nature, that we all work together because we share information, for those who don't know, in the outside world, we do a lot of sharing with each other.
Yes.
And I feel a little heavy still. I was in Jamaica for a family funeral, and when I came home, I had not checked all of my WhatsApp connections, and I saw it online, and then I looked on my phone, and I had not missed calls, but connections from the family. So, you know how it feels bad, like, wow, I wish I could have made one more stop.
Wow. 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 I remember, we've done so much together, Jomo. I mean, Joy's a producer, so she's always, and you're such an integral part of the Africa Forum. And so she's always in contact with you. And I think in a similar way, you teased her as much as Muta teased her. But with but with a different kind of teasing.
Not as hard, not more loving.
Not as hard. And because she was also a producer, by the way, on the Cutting Edge with Muta
Yes.
Baruka and the Stepping Razor. And she was producing. Over time here at IREFM, she produced every program on air over time. Nicholas Evans is reminding me that she came to the programming department in 2002. And that is true. And we're talking about all the way to possibly, Nick, 2015. Correct me if I'm wrong. But so she's an integral part of the very foundation of IREFM. You also dealt with obviously becoming great friends, but as a producer. Tell us about that whole relationship with Joy, who is the one who would normally call you and say, "You have to be on the show. Behave yourself."
Well, it was an instruction, and usually whether we were away or whether I was there live, just the communications. Even I guess setting up our our relationships with, live broadcasts from Rebel Salute and all the different things that we do, like I said, whether scheduled or non-scheduled, and even work with other artists. But the kindness, the joy, the literal joy, and then also outside of the professionalism, someone who's actually current in history, culture, news, so that it made everything more pleasant because all of our hearts and minds were in the same place, and they remained in the same place even after her not being at Irie. So, the story doesn't stop. The relationship, the energies keep going, right?
It does.
And
It does.
yeah. So
I want to thank you so much. You came to talk about something else, but the ancestors would have it that we are talking about joy. And I want to invite you again next week to come back to talk about Black America and the MAGA moment, only because we have 3 minutes left before we go to the Supreme Ventures draw. So I hope that you're okay with what the ancestors led us to do this morning.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it stays and it remains contextualized as all things with everything that you've been talking about on the show, from tourism to Jamaica to Dr. Shepherd. Something is happening where Black people don't hold on to our own memory and what happened to us in particular, and we can lose bearings. We don't need to get so comfortable that we lose reference of who we are, because in critical times it might be hard to amass our best energies if we don't remember our history. And I think that that's one of the main attractions to your international institution, and the necessity for that continuum, in all forms: arts, culture, travel, tourism. We have to be mindful of who we are at every stage and who we are all over this planet.
You're so right about that.
We got a lot of challenges. Yeah.
Yes, you're so right about that. Listen, my brother, thank you so much. You're well known to the IRFM listenership, and also to our Africa Forum family. So no great introduction, but you are a radio broadcast. You're a DJ. You're a presenter in Buffalo. I said Baltimore on my social media.
Because that's where we meet in Baltimore. Sometimes we meet in Baltimore when you're out running around the country. Yeah.
Nina Simone kind of situation. Last time we met, where were we? It was DC?
Baltimore. DC and Baltimore. We did the show live.
Yes. Yeah. So, we always woke up in Baltimore. I think that's where you are. And, and we spent so much time there with Joy over the years, and we're always in DC. We went to we've been to the Howard University homecoming quite a few times. And we never missed the party. Even if I don't want to go, we have to go shopping, go buy clothes, we go party. That was Joy. And we usually party until morning. It is what it is. Here we are. Jomo, thank you so much, my brother, for helping us.
Keep the joy. Keep the joy. Hold the joy.
We'll keep the joy. We'll keep the joy.